Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Infield Report. My name is Isaac alongside my older brother Tyler.
How's it going?
We are setting this up right after the Cup race from Texas on Sunday, but there was a good full weekend of racing. We had the Truck Series was there Friday night, O'Reilly Series. I almost said the other series. O'Reilly Series was there Saturday. There was actually an ARCA doubleheader late last night. I didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of it. And then we had the Cup race, obviously, on Sunday. So, like I said, good full weekend of racing everywhere you look. And Texas, I know, has been a polarizing track in the past. I know with the repave back in 2017, after, or, it was before the 2017 races, uh, there was a lot of question marks around how the track would age, especially as they added the PJ1 later. What How do you think that the track has aged over the course of time with the repave and reconfiguration? Do you think the racing lines have improved? Have they worsened? Is it account like how have the cars been, especially the next gen car? How has that been affected at the track? I know it's a lot of questions to throw at you, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts on things, Tyler.
Well, in iRacing and that they don't simulate a lot of those problem bumps all the time, so I don't know what that tunnel turn is like, but I know the racing is it's been okay. There's been moments where the last third or the last half of a race has been good, but overall I think it's just getting worse and worse and something's got to give. Either NASCAR or the track owners have to say, it's time for an upgrade. It's time for a reconfiguration because they're not going to get rid of that tunnel. They can't
No.
move it and they just can't shave it down. Because I think they tried that or they were talking about it one year, and that's just going to make things worse. It's just going to be a rough surface. It's going to be very hard to match the age and the weathering of it to make it smooth and consistent. I think within a year or two, some someone's got to say uncle. Now with the racing, it has gotten better and worse depending on what package they brought. But with the next gen, they have that stupid, basically a flat floor underneath, and that's not really helping with the bumps.
No.
But with the Gen 6 car, it was a little better. But that was, you know, that's old surface versus new surface. Maybe we can talk about that on like a little mini episode or something.
Oh,
But overall, I think Texas, she needs a facelift. I think she's due for a little bit of a correction.
I mean, I can see the argument for that. There is like it depends on the series, right? So like the Truck series and the O'Reilly series, I thought at least the announcers also helped get it hyped up too, but there were really good moments of racing throughout. Hard fought battles, door to door racing. Everybody just wanting to tear around the place, which is great. But then in the Cup series, I don't know what it is. There are moments, but it's not like that the entire race. Again, I know there's been this debate about is a good race, is it entertaining all the way through? Is it just in specific moments? Is it in the big moments? Is it in the moments where things get, the rest of the race is dull, but there's one or two battles going on that's fun? Like, I don't know. It might be up to everybody's preference, but at the same time, it's like with Texas, since that reconfiguration, I don't know. It's one of those things where we've had almost 10 years now to get adjusted to this and see the difference on how it's run. And it's a tough one. I mean, I know that they want to try to get they want to stay in the Texas market. I think that's the biggest reason why they're still there. but they have to realize if they want it to be successful. I mean, they had to make some changes at Coda to make it work, but they made it work. And I heard Kyle Larson say, I think it was on Saturday during their media scrum, that a big reconfiguration would be nice, but they just dumped a bunch of money into the track. They just, they did a lot of infrastructure updates, and with the way that attendance has been the last couple of years, that the money's not, it's just not being brought in. So it's very difficult to, you know, spend the money and give a reason for the spending. So that's kind of the tough part too. And so you've got to look at it as, is it worth the investment to try and see if we can improve the quality of racing? Or are we just going to bite the bullet, which I don't think they will, but it's always a possibility, but it's highly unlikely. Um,
And we
but
all wanna say NASCAR should just dump money with all the profits they had, but there's the big I word, investment. They need a return on that, and I don't know if they wanna take that risk of doing that. But please correct me, is it a NASCAR-owned track, or is it part of that ownership group?
um, that is a very, very solid question.
See, if it's a
And
NASCAR-owned track, what's NASCAR doing? Why are they sitting on their laurels?
so it's a speedway, it's an SMI track. So
Okay,
it's
so
owned by NASCAR.
that that changes things a little bit. But, uh, and you said the Texas market, COTA, Circuit of the Americas, can only do so much, and I know NASCAR wants to stay with the ovals alongside that, and there's not very many NASCAR-approved tracks for, like, safety and attendance and all that stuff. So they're kinda stuck at Texas unless they just take it away altogether for a couple of years while they revamp it and redo things. Maybe ask for some, um, government handout or something.
We all know how the locals always enjoy, whether it's with stadiums or tracks, mainly stadiums. We know how the locals react to getting any sort of public funding for said venue. But you know, and that's been the struggle too. Is like we said. I mean, I know that NASCAR wants to be in the Texas market, and they still wanna be in the California market, the Southern California market. So I think that, like, San Diego is an okay fix for now, especially since they don't have the Clash at the Coliseum now. But there's gotta be some sort of temporary fix until they either do something with that, or unfortunately, you gotta do something, because Texas, as Texas Motor Speedway is now, doesn't always produce the best racing. But again, it's gonna end up, they're gonna find a magic match at some point, whether it's at Texas or not. So that, I think, remains to be seen. But while we still have the track, like, because the other thing too is they had Texas World there for a while. And what did you think on the racing at Texas World before that whole thing?
I never saw any racing or highlights from Texas World before they, went to this track, so I have no say on it. All I know is this new track took away a Rockingham race, and then it took away another one, and it looks like almost the tides might be turning on its head to have Rockingham take away a Texas date. So the world heals, but I do want to see Texas because it had some great racing in the past before
Oh,
the
yeah.
2017 repave. It's just like I said, something's got to give, and either change the cars completely because it almost behaves just like Charlotte or Las Vegas, once the cars and drivers get into a rhythm. And that's kind of how the racing plays out. But it's not doing that. So it's either the surface or the way it's smoothed out, the bumps. They got to figure that out.
Yeah. But it is a challenge for some of the guys in the lower series, especially with the bumps in 3 and 4. And we did see some of those issues in the truck race, and, it was the truck race was a pretty fun one to watch. Like we said, there was a lot of battling early on, especially between Carson Hocevar and Kyle Busch as teammates, which is a very weird thing in and of itself, especially after Kyle made his comments a couple weeks ago about Hocevar not being one of his favorite drivers to run with, and the fact that they're teammates is just it's a weird thing, but I think he puts up with it because he sold his team to Spire, and he can basically run whatever whenever he wants to a point. But um, yeah, Hocevar was fantastic in that race. Rowdy was great. Um, you know, granted there were some early issues that caused him to drop back. I think he had pushed it super early. I think in stage 1 and hit the wall coming out of 4, I think it was, and then they had to come in. It was early in stage 1, yes, because it was like lap 18 or 19. He came in, they had to pull the fender out, and um, he had some damage from that incident. So that caused him to drop to the back. He ended up getting lucky with some of the cautions and was able to work his way back up to the lead lap. But there were quite a few guys that were running very well throughout the race. Ben Rhodes, who I know we've mentioned his name here and there throughout the season, he led 41 laps and got the stage 1 win. And I think this was the rebound I think he needed. This was one of the races that I know he needed to have to get his season back on track. Not having the best of luck so far, but this week kinda turned the tides around a little bit for him, and with the next couple races coming up, I think he's got a pretty good shot to rebound and trampoline back into w up into the top 10 in points where he needs to be. But it was good to see him, like I said, run as well as he did. Um, Chandler Smith was running around there pretty well all throughout the day. Found his way towards the front, never led, but just kind of found his way up there. Um, like I said, Brandon Jones, another one that doesn't typically run trucks. He was running pretty well as well. Led I think 16 laps, so still also running pretty good. But also had some incidents fairly early too. What was his name? Drawing a blank. Corey Roper. He was back in a truck for the first time in 3.5 years, I think the broadcast said, and super early got into a bit of an accident and couldn't quite finish the day out like they wanted to, but kind of a tough look for that 62 truck, especially since that entire Hallmark Friesen team has been looking really solid all day, all season, I should say. But just kind of a rough start for them. Cole Butcher in the 13 as well, unfortunately backed his truck into the wall and ended his day pretty early. He hasn't necessarily had the best of seasons either, so just kind of a rough go for those guys. Um, just a I'll say it was those guys want to forget their days, but the ones that had a great race, like I said, were the ones I mentioned earlier. Daniel Hemrick having another fantastic day. He's one that I he was in the O'Reilly series and in the Cup series for a bit and could never get his footing, but now that he's come back down to the trucks, I think there's been a lot more momentum on his side, and he's been able to do what he needs to do to put together consistent runs, and I think he's gonna continue to do that with, the 19 truck that he's in. We also had Parker Kligerman that was getting a seat in that Ram free agent truck, still running just as good as ever, finished 11th, and just had himself a good day. Fairly clean day, nothing too terrible. Just made sure to complete the laps, run everything the way he needed to, and he did a good job. So I'm happy to see him back in a truck, even though it's not um, for Henderson or anything like that. But it's good to see him back in the truck series, regardless, getting a chance to run. So um, good on him. Like I said, there was a lot of great racing. Carson Hocevar he got the win, so he continued his winning from the Cup Series, and it was there were how do I phrase this nicely? He was willing to push the issue against these younger truck guys that don't typically see it work against them. So I mean, in those situations, Tyler, what would you do if you see a guy like Hocevar who is aggressive as he is, especially when he was back in the truck series a couple years ago, and you see him running this way and this aggressive, how would you even go about racing him?
I think we talked about this in an earlier episode, but along the lines of watch what he's doing, see how aggressive he is. Can you push the issue? Does it fit your driving style? And if you can keep up with him, put your elbows out a little bit. He wants a taste of his own medicine? Come here, boy. Let me teach you something. I can run with you too. Come here. But
Yeah.
but going back, you just kind of you let him do his thing. You see if you can match it, and if you know you just can't match it, don't be a doormat. Make it difficult to pass. Make him work for it. Let him burn up his stuff. Let him beat himself up. Don't let him beat up you, but don't be a doormat either.
Yeah. And there were a few issues on pit road all day for a couple guys. Hocevar did have some. We had one that I don't think I've seen that I can recall. There was the back window bracing for Lane Riggs was not holding, so they had to use some bear bond to get the whole thing to stay put. I don't know exactly what happened. Have you ever seen anything like that happen?
I think it happened to Kevin Harvick. I think when he won and he was disqualified for it, sort of looking to see if that's going to be a penalty in the long run. I don't know if NASCAR's going to go down on that, but I haven't seen it on a truck, but I have seen it on I think the Gen 6 Cup car. I think was it Texas or was that Atlanta that happened?
It was Vegas, I believe. He won the Vegas race early in the year, and I think it was Chase Elliott saw that his window was bowing in when he was at speed. So, um, yeah, I guess we Harvick's was a different situation, but it was weird because they still let him keep the win for it, but they still docked him points and fined him. But um, yeah, in a truck, it's very unusual. But
Because that's not really
again,
an aerodynamic uh, advantage either. So I don't know. It might be a safety thing that NASCAR might say something. They might let it go, but it looked like it was a genuine. Just someone didn't put the truck together right before sending
yeah,
it. So like I said, that's up in the air. I don't want him to get a penalty, but we shouldn't be surprised if he does.
yeah, there might be a monetary fine that comes through, but I mean, I don't
Maybe for
know.
like the
For
team or something, but for the driver, I don't think that's a punishment for that. But I don't know. I
worst
don't.
case,
Go ahead.
it's a crew chief penalty. Like that's the only thing I could theoretically see, but because it's safety, you never know how NASCAR is going to take it. So we'll end up seeing on that, but, um, just
With
kind
the
of
new
a
CEO, we might have different either more leniency or he's gonna be a little bit harder on the drivers. So that'll be interesting to see the next couple years.
oh, yeah. Well, I think is even just throughout the rest of this season to see if anything gets changed or if any of the rulings seem to be a little bit more lenient, as you alluded to, or if he's gonna be a little bit more strict, a little bit more, iron fisted, we'll see on those. But, after the Texas race, the truck race, um, there really wasn't any change in the points. I mean, we had, um we had Ben Rhodes come up into the point standings. He's now 5th. Gio Ruggiero is in 4th. Lane Riggs sits in 3rd. Chandler Smith in 2nd. And Caden Honeycutt is still out front, but his lead is not as big as it once was. He's only up by 14 points. It also helps, like I said, Chandler Smith had a he had a solid run this weekend as well to help boost his points a little bit. That narrowed the gap between him and Honeycutt. Honeycutt, like I said, he also ran a fantastic race, finished 3rd. Um, but I think Chandler Smith did more in this race to close the gap. So, the race at the top is getting a little bit tighter, and I believe it's 10 drivers are racing for the chase in the truck series. I know it's a bit early to talk about it, but that 10th driver right now is Stuart Friesen, and he is currently 8 points above Jake Garcia, and Justin Haley is 9 points below Stuart Friesen on that. We'll call it the imaginary cutoff line right now. So, there's still a lot of movement that's going to happen over the next couple races, but things are going to change and shake out a little bit. And as you had mentioned a couple weeks ago, I think you said now is where we'll start to see where everybody truly is going to fall for the year. So it's going to get very interesting very quickly to see where everybody lines up over the course of the next couple races. But now that we've kind of gone over the truck series that was on Friday night, we can hop on into the O'Reilly series that was on Saturday. And we had somebody running this race that won the race that we had been talking about. How does he get over the hump and actually finish the race? Well, Kyle Larson did it this week. He was able to outlast his other junior motorsports teammates as well as a hard charging Brent Cruz and Sam Mayer to win at Texas. Now, Larson did end up leading the most laps out of anybody. He led 93 out of the 200 laps, so almost half the race. So it wasn't as dominant as he's run, in other O'Reilly races, but it was still a good Larson win, I think. Uh, Allgaier, like I said, he finished second. He was probably the second strongest car throughout the entire race. Um, Mayer looked pretty good throughout as well, running very well throughout the course of the day. Um, I mean, there wasn't really anybody that challenged the top 4. It was kinda just those 4, but they all seemed to be battling really well against each other, and then the field, it's, between themselves, like, I'll say everybody else seemed to be doing a really good job as far as battling each other out and fighting for positions, but fairly cleanly, so no egregious accidents or anything like that. But it was kinda tough to start the race because we got into turn 1.5 before we had cars spinning all over the place, which I feel like has been a trend the last couple races where we can't even get a full lap in before guys are wrecking. So I don't know if that's something that we need to have a driver meeting conversation about and say, "Hey, just get through a stupid lap before we do anything dumb, all right? Can we just let's get some get moving and get some momentum built, and then we can wreck or then we can spin." But I don't know, is that just because you got guys that are coming in that they just wanna go 100% lap 1, or what do you think that the reason for that is over the last couple races?
It's a myriad of reasons, but it was a little bit of just Texas shenanigans. Um, it's just one of those things where, yeah, maybe that is something that NASCAR can do is, hey, we're having too many incidents between lap 1 and lap 10. Guys need to cool it down. Uh, in sim racing, we say it all the time. In order to finish first you must finish. You need to get to the end of the race before you start beating and banging and getting your elbows out. Whatever happened last week with you and your rival, wait until the later half where it actually matters. Because otherwise, you're just going to rack up everyone's expensive repair bills on both sides of the fence or all 38 sides of the fence. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things where if I was a team owner or the crew chief or even spotter, if you're the driver coach, settle it down, pedal it down. You have a 2 hour race ahead of you. Use it wisely because there's a whole bunch. You only get to either this track once or when we come back, someone's going to have an elephant memory and they're never ever going to forget what you did to them.
Yeah, and it was tough to see, Corey Day get caught up in that, and unfortunately was never able to I mean, he completed a lap officially, but he only completed the 1 lap out of 200. Uh, kind of a roller coaster of emotions from winning your first career race, especially at Talladega, a big one, to not even completing a lap at Texas is kind of a that's such you know, massive swing, but that's part of the sport is 1 week you can be on top of the world, and then the next you'll be at the very bottom of the pack, and you just have to get over that, put that behind you, and keep moving forward and keep trucking until you can, you get to the following week. But it was very difficult to see that. It was also difficult to see Brad Perez as well have his day end very early on lap 17. He took a vicious hit, and you had made a comment about it too, that the hit that he took in the dog leg to that front stretch wall was very hard. Um, we had seen I watched the replay probably 4 times, and the entire front end of that car, I mean, it was scrap metal at that point, but that's when you're very thankful for the safer barriers that are there. You're thankful that the cars crumple as much as they do, that they yeah, I'll say disintegrate as much as they do because that was rough to watch. But he got tangled with Austin Green in that incident and just unfortunately ended both of their days on that one. And just kind of an unnecessary thing. I think Brad lost the back end and couldn't do much with it. And then unfortunately, I think Austin Green might have tried to go through the grass and tore the front end of his car up or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but those 2 got involved with each other and couldn't couldn't finish the race. So kind of an unfortunate thing. Um, Raja as well. He's had a bit of an up and down season. I would argue more highs than lows, but this was a tough one for him. Not running in a junior motorsports car, but he was running in a Jordan Anderson car, the number 32 this week, and was running fairly well all day. And then I think I think when he was coming out of 2, there was either a little bit of contact, or I think he had misjudged how far he was coming up the track and hit the wall and ended up spinning, making big contact with the inside wall, and unfortunately, day was over. But tough to see him running as well as he has, and then wrecking out of the race so close to the end. So that was rough. But
I
like I
just
said,
hope
we had
next year I'm just hoping next year that he has 1 ride, 1 number, 1 ride only. That way he can actually put together consistent results. See where he stands. 'Cause I was a little skeptical of him, having a part-time schedule, but he's gonna hop over here, hop over there, and then, oh, they're gonna Cup Series driver's gonna fill in over here. It's confusing almost every week. Okay, who's in the 1? Who's in the 88? Who's over here? Who's over there? And why is he on this team? Now he's on a different team, but he's scoring points for himself. What's going on? But
yeah.
I don't know. I hope he does get a consistent ride next year, a full-time ride, because he is a very good driver. Just just the circumstances he's in right now, I wouldn't put his performance all year in the fridge, but I wouldn't put it in the trash either.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the thing too is, like, bouncing from team to team. I know there might be an alliance between Jordan Anderson and Junior Motorsports, but at the same time, that's still 2 different organizations. Yes, you're under the Chevy umbrella, but you're under 2 different buildings, or you're in 2 different buildings. So, your development, you're learning how to do one thing for the junior cars, but then you're also doing another thing for the Jordan Anderson cars, and you're not running consistently the same way every time because they're different cars in a sense. So,
You have also different cultures and different mission statements as well. Two totally different end goals, or 2 different paths for the same end goal, and trying to swap between those. That can be a little bit of a toll every other week if you have to hop around. It's kind of like swap in your situation where you have to go from one store. Oh, now I have to manage another store. Oh, now I have to work at this other one. Oh, I'm back to this one over here. That's my main store. But you guys look like strangers. What happened?
yeah, and it's very difficult on development because if I remember correctly, I think Junior Motorsports does build the chassis in-house, I think, for Jordan Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, or they do the engines come from Hendrick, I believe, or I think that's how it works. But either way, I know Junior Motorsports builds specific things for other teams in their shop, which is great. But again, you have different buildings, you have different owners that you know are pushing different mission statements. So it's very tough to have a consistently developmental when you're kind of on 2 different tracks and hoping that you can develop on the main one to hopefully, improve your overall success to help get you another ride. And like when it was announced that Raja was getting a ride with Junior Motorsports, I was like, this is fantastic. This is the break he needs because he's got a lot of talent. Now's the chance for him to show what he's got behind top tier equipment. But he's only there part time. And so it's like, get this man a full time ride. I mean, it's the same as like Corey Heim. He deserves a full time ride. That's a whole other issue. But Raja needs consistency. Now, like I said, the Chevy camp in general is kind of sort of the same, but it's also kind of sort of different. So I don't know. Get him a ride. Whether it's with Jordan Anderson, Jr., somebody else, please, somebody fund that man. But that's enough of that ramble, rant. whatever you want to classify that as, sales pitch for Raja, if you will. Uh, it was it was good to see him running as well as he did, and then unfortunately end the day that he did, end the day the way that he did. But we had two junior motorsports cars that ended up winning stages. Um, Allgaier won stage one, not necessarily surprising. I mean, he's won a stage in almost every single race, it seems like this year. And Zilich coming down and winning stage two. But unfortunately for the field and for junior motorsports, those two guys didn't get the win. Kyle Larson did. And like we said, just kind of a tough thing when junior motorsports is running as good as they are in the O'Reilly series, but um, you know, RCR did fairly well with both their cars. Jesse Love and Austin Hill both finishing in the top 10, Hill in 7th, Love in 9th, respectively. So they had a good bounce back as well. But, you know, there was a really cool moment, and I know it was shared on social media several times, where it was Larson, Zilich, and Brent Cruz battling for the lead 3 wide with, like, 95 laps to go. That type of racing was awesome to see between those guys, and Brent Cruz holding his own against those 3 was awesome because as a young kid, I think he just turned 18 a couple weeks ago, like, or 17, I can't remember. He's a young kid regardless, and the fact that he's able to hold his own against Larson, who is at the top of his game right now, and Zilich, who is one of the best young talents in the sport, and then Brent Cruz doing his thing and holding his own, awesome to see. So that bodes well, and I'm excited to see where he goes. Not sure what ride he's going to end up landing as a full-time ride next year, but we'll find out hopefully fairly soon within the next couple months. But it was a good O'Reilly race. Like I said, there was some good stuff all around. Uh, Nothing too wild and crazy, just kind of a Texas race with a lot more racing action going on in there. But, in the field, point situation didn't necessarily change all that much either. Uh, Matter of fact, I think Brandon Jones was the only one that he jumped into the top 5, um, behind Corey Day, who unfortunately only got 1 point this week. Jesse Love is in 3rd, Sheldon Creed in 2nd, and Justin Allgaier way out in front by 121 points, or 121 points. He's ahead of Sheldon Creed. So kind of a runaway regular season title in the O'Reilly series right now. But again, things are subject to change, race to race. It's kind of the way it goes. I think it's 12 drivers in the O'Reilly series that will race for the chase. And Sam Mayer currently sits in that 12th spot. He is at 285 points, and 8 points below him in 13th is Ryan Sieg. Brent Cruz, who is the rookie, he's in 14th. He is 12 points behind Sam Mayer. And Raja is in 15th, and he is only 14 points behind Sam Mayer for that final chase spot as of right now. So if all things continue to trend up for Raja, he can make the chase with a part-time, full-time schedule. Be great for him. I think that would bode well for um, his ability to sell himself for a team. I think would be really awesome if he could make
Pad
it
is Yeah,
driving full
pad his
time.
resume because he is
Oh,
attempting every single race, so that's what's keeping him in the hunt. Otherwise, if he's just kinda part-time here and there, he wouldn't even be in the conversation. So,
yeah,
like you said previous, it was a bummer that he got a part-time, but he's fending well for himself so far. So I can see him. I don't think he's gonna win the whole thing unless he proves me wrong the next, you know, several weeks. But he'll be up there. I'm gonna say maybe top 8, probably by the end of the year if he keeps this up.
Yeah, so you think he's gonna make it in based on the way he's been driving so far?
I think so. I think it's a little early to, cement our little chase bubble, but I think Raja needs to clean it up a little bit. But I think a solid 8 to 10.
I think that's a pretty solid, I'll say prediction. I would agree with you there. I think he's got a really good shot. Um, but going away from our little early picks, we'll do that here in a couple weeks for our midseason predictions. But onto the Cup race, which had a little bit of a couple of interesting tidbits. We had a driver get their first career stage win. I honestly thought he had one by now, but Eric Jones had his first career stage win today. If you would have told me that last week, I probably would have said you're crazy. But they were able to play some fantastic strategy in staying out. I think he only pitted for 2 tires on the first green flag cycle and then ended up staying out, and there was a late caution in stage 1, and Eric Jones was able to fight off everybody and was able to actually drive away with the stage 1 win. So not just hold them off, but, like, he drove away with it, which was awesome. So it's not that they don't have speed over there at Legacy, it's just their efforts on Saturdays need to be better so that they could be in a better position to win on Sundays. But it kinda depends on the track too, but, like, what they showed early in the race, they definitely had the speed. So, um, kind of a bummer that he only, I'll say, quote, unquote, "only finished 12th," but a top 15 result, regardless, for Eric Jones is fantastic, especially for that legacy team that needs it. Uh, the stage 2 winner ended up being the race winner and the fastest car on track all day. Chase Elliott now has 2 wins on the year, and they said this is the soonest he's ever won multiple races in a year. So, I mean, he's definitely found something early, and I don't know what it is. Chevys have struggled early in the year, but with Chase getting 2 wins and now Hocevar getting a win, it seems like Chevy might be on track to finally be coming into form. I think they had some issues with they've got a new front end on things on their cars this year, so it aerodynamics are a little bit different. At Talladega with the draft, it was a little bit different, and so they were having to make some adjustments there, but I think they've finally figured things out. Alex Bowman, I'm gonna kinda spoil it now. He's my fridge performance of the week, seeing him come back from the, um, all the vertigo symptoms he was dealing with, and we're at Texas. I think this is what, 3 or 4 weeks later after his initial return, and he finishes 3rd. So, I gotta give him major props where it's due. Fantastic run for him all day, and, just like I said, he's doing a fantastic job coming back and reacclimating to things after being away for a couple weeks. Last week's defending winner, Carson Hocevar, finished 7th. So he was all sevens across the board. He finished 7th in the 77. That makes a triple seven if you're superstitious. But just figured I'd throw that out there. Um, again, Riley Herbst somehow found his way to 11th. He was he was decently fast all day. I think all the 2311 cars were fast, including Corey Heim, who ended up leading 69 laps, which was second most out of anybody throughout the entire race. So he stayed out, was able to run long a couple times, and was able to lead, like I said, 69 laps. And I think he actually showed a ton of potential. And granted, if I mean, pushing it, the fuel window, I think the first time he was, I wanna say it was like 18 laps short, so I don't think you coulda saved that much fuel, but the fact that he was able to run as well as he did and lead as many laps as he did and stay consistent with it, it was a good learning race for him. Good learning moment for him to run out front, and I wanna say at one point he was running away with it too, or he was actually, like, pulling away from Chase. So and Chase was consistently one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car on the track. So, again, he had speed all day, but with having to pit under green, put him a lap down, and then, having to fight his way back towards the front and then getting caught up in things late, unfortunately, his 31st place finish doesn't reflect it, but if you were to go back and, like, actually watch his race, that was a heck of a race for him. I know, again, 31st is not where he wanted to finish, but things definitely could have been better. Another one that definitely could have been better, should have been better, but I think he shot himself in the foot was, the one that we've unfortunately been dogging in the media the last, I don't know, probably 3 years now. Kyle Busch, he was running in the top 10 for most of the day, and then I don't know what happened, whether he got, like, I don't know how he got caught up way in the back, but then he got, like, super pissed off with John Hunter, and they had their thing, and Kyle, it looked like, from my perspective, I'd like to get your take on this in a second, looked like Kyle Busch wrecked John Hunter there at the end with 1 to go. Um, how did you interpret that incident? Uh, Racing incident or incident otherwise?
Um, I think it's going to be a racing incident. At first, I thought it was 100% uh, Kyle Busch, but then I kind of looked at it and it's like, both of them are kind of going for the same, what we call it, real estate. But I think Kyle Busch sent in some telemetry on X or Twitter, and yeah, both of them are at fault, but both of them are not at fault. So I think it's just going to be swept as a racing incident. But if I had to put blame, Kyle Busch is probably going to get the stick shaken at him a little bit. But I wouldn't. If I was Kyle, I would not take this to the next track.
No. And his spotter, Derek Nealon, was telling him, like, earlier in the race, because I think earlier in the race he was peeved with Hocevar for the way that he was racing him. I think it was on green flag stops. Hocevar came down and looked like he was gonna pit, but then he just cut Kyle off, and Kyle basically said, "This is he can't be racing like an idiot. This is why I don't like racing against him because he does stupid stuff like this." And it's like his spotter was telling him, "Hey, just shut up, calm down. We're having the best race we've had all year. Just run with what we've got." And I mean, Kyle did say he didn't start it, which, I mean, it can be argued. John Hunter, like you said, they were fighting over the same piece of real estate, which is fine. But in my, I'll call it couch racer opinion here, I don't think it was necessary to retaliate and wreck him, because, like, from the telemetry that he posted, that Kyle posted, it looked like he clearly didn't show the wreck happen, or, like, when he wrecked John Hunter. He just showed the telemetry from coming out of 2 and how John Hunter had the run, didn't give a or, didn't, check up and actually, like, had the run, and Kyle came up and looked like they had their thing. But I don't think Kyle Busch actually showed the telemetry from down in turn 3 when it looked like Kyle wrecked John Hunter. because I think he did, and I think he didn't want to implicate himself in that, but because from my perspective, again, watching from home, it looked like he jerked that wheel to the right, or like he not jerked it to the right, but like he let the wheel go to the right a little bit and got into him. I think it was intentional. Regardless, I don't think it was necessary. Do I think he's gonna get punished for it? I don't think so. He's probably gonna get a stern talking to because he's Kyle, but I don't know. I really don't see any point thing coming his way. Fine. I don't foresee it either, but if so, it's not gonna be like a massive fine, but I don't know. It's just one of those things that it's a bad look. So, just you can't be doing that sort of thing, especially as a veteran. But it is what it is. Um, you know, Kyle being Kyle. People said he's back to being rowdy again, just not caring. Well, caring, but just in a different way, if that makes sense. Um, Point wise, we had a little bit of movement, especially since Chase won the race. Won his second race of the year. He actually jumped up to third in points. But we have a new fifth place that I don't know if I necessarily saw it coming, but with as consistent as he was today with a fifth place finish, he moved his way to fifth place in the points. Chris Buescher, he's having himself a heck of a season right now. And I think this Buescher is going to be another guy I think that benefits from this chase system because he was always consistently like a bubble guy as far as points, and he would always get knocked out based on a winner or like one of those win and you're in guys like Josh Berry, Harrison Burton, Austin Dillon, things like that. He would get knocked out. So I'm interested to see how he does, especially with the improvements that RFK Racing has made throughout the year, how he'll continue to progress. Ryan Blaney dropped to fourth in points, but again, Chase is in third. Denny still sits in second, and Reddick miles above everybody else. 130, and I'm sorry, 119 point, 109. My math is not working. Reddick is 109 points ahead of Denny right now for first. So, kind of a weird thing when your own driver is ahead of you in the points. But what do you do? What do you do?
Let him go. Let him do his thing. That's what you hired him for. If he's gonna
Yeah,
kick your behind, let him kick your behind. He's doing it cleanly. He's doing it smart. Why stop him now? Just keep
that's true.
chasing him. That's all you can do.
Well, especially when you offered him or when he accepted a contract extension, which we still don't know the terms to yet, but the presumption is it's a multi-year extension to stay with 2311. I would imagine it's probably a 3 or 4 year deal, but again, we don't publicly know yet. But we'll probably get the details here soon. But
Let's head on over to both of our favorite segments called Fridge or Trash. Well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day, but not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be hung on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. Let's start with the Craftsman Truck Series here. Who is your Frigidator driver
you
today?
know, it's a good question because there's a couple of them, but I'm gonna narrow it down. I'm only gonna do two uh, for the truck series anyway. I will have to say Daniel Hemrick turning it around and getting a seventh place finish this week. He's got to be on towards the top of my fridge for the Craftsman Truck Series. Fantastic run for him. My other one is going to be a guy that finished a couple spots in front of him. I'll give Ben Rhodes a little bit of I'll give him his flowers too. He was, like I said earlier, needed to have a good race to kind of turn his season back into the way that I know he wants it to be, and this, I think, is a good start for him. And then I'm gonna hopping back to Hemrick, same kinda deal. I mean, he's kind of been off the usual track from what he typically is, so it was good to see him get a solid finish this week. But who would you put at the top of your fridge for the Truck Series?
I think you said it best. I think you stole what I was gonna say about Ben Rhodes, but turning it around after these past couple of weeks, going to a track that he's pretty strong at, he pulled it out. He pulled out a really
Oh,
good
yeah.
week.
I mean, as long as he didn't do what his teammate did and try to go through the grass, we're fine. I mean, I know, you know, Jake was trying to avoid the accident, but still, unfortunately, that's the grass of Texas for you. Now, in regards to crashing, wrecking out, going through the grass, whose performance would you take out back to the dumpsters and just let the garbage man take that away?
There was mm, there was quite a few that were ended up in the junkyard, and you and I try not to touch them because that's basically kicking a dog while they're down.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked elsewhere, and looked like Mini Tyrell could have done better. It wasn't the best night for him. Finished a little bit worse than I thought he was going to, but hopefully next week it turns around.
Yeah. He was, you know, 21st is not a bad finish, but again, with the speed that he had, definitely could have been better. Um, I'd say my trash performance I would toss in the trash. Uh, it's kind of tough because again, you and I kind of talk about this off camera as well. It's like it's kind of hard to pick some drivers just because some of them typically, or a lot of them typically fall about where we think they're going to, or where we think that they quote unquote should. So it's kind of difficult. But I mean, if I had to pick one, it's probably Stuart Friesen. I mean, he got involved in a late incident and was able to save his truck, which was great. But the problem is a 19th place finish with the speed that they've shown all year is not necessarily what you want to come home with. But at the end of the day, like he's still doing very well. He's still in 10th in the points. So, you know, not nothing to ring the alarm bells about yet, but this is definitely not helping his point situation at all. But it is what it is. Like I said, just one of those days you wish you could have not had the spin and maybe you would have finished top 15, maybe a little bit better, but it's kind of tough to tell where he would have been. Going to the O'Reilly series, do you have a performance you'd hang up on the fridge?
I have two of them. One is more of
Alright.
a hype train, and the other is an actual surprise when I looked at the final results. First one, hype train, and he's becoming my favorite driver for a couple of reasons, is Retzlaff. He finished another great race this week. He's had a great couple of weeks as well. Hopefully that trend goes up. And I'll try, unless he wins, I'll try not to pick him every week for a fridge driver because I think I've done that almost 3 weeks in a row, or I've sang
You
his
and me
praises
both.
almost three. Yeah, but and the other one is Anthony Alfredo. When I looked at the results, I'm like, wow, he actually finished very decent. He's normally like mid pack, kind of towards the rear, kind of towards the end of top 15. But what did I see? Sixth place? Came in sixth at Texas? That's very decent.
So, Anthony Alfredo was 12th, Parker was 5th, so still both top 15. Great finishes for them both. Um, and they're both doing very well. Parker, in particular, he's ninth in the points right now. You're right. Anthony Alfredo kind of tends to run middle of the pack, kind of towards the back. He is 20th in the points right now, but he's kind of in a cluster right now, you know, between him and 20th, and I think we said what, 12th is the cutoff for the chase. He is 83 points back. So it's not outrageous to think he can make up that gap. But again, it's a little early to talk about the chase now, but he definitely had a solid run, and I know he got a lot of crap for the way that he ran in the 48 car for Bowman when he was out, but you gotta think he's not a cup driver. Um, and, the cup car is so different from the O'Reilly car that just hopping in on short notice when you're not necessarily prepared for it and the car isn't necessarily built for you is a really difficult thing, but I will say in the O'Reilly series, Alfredo's doing a great job. I agree with you. My I'll say my fridge driver is actually not gonna be in the Chevy camp. I'm gonna switch it over to the Toyota camp here. Brandon Jones was, uh, he had himself a fantastic day. Finished 8th. He scored stage points in both stages, and I was talking with somebody when I was at Spire the other day. I went up to Spire to go see Hocevar's car, and got talking, and it's like it's only a matter of time before Brandon Jones, I think, gets himself another win. He's got the speed, he's got the talent. It's just unfortunately, junior motorsports has been so fast everywhere they go. Or you get a guy like Austin Hill that tends to win the drafting tracks as much as, that has to happen, it seems like. But, it's good to see him continuing to do well, especially after he bounced around there for a bit between junior and JGR. He's back with JGR again for another year, and he's got the talent. The other one I am going to also shout out Brent Cruz as well. I shouted him out a little bit earlier when we talked about the race, but kid can wheel it. I know that when Zilich was doing the ARCA series, if Zilich wasn't winning the race, it was Brent Cruz. People don't tend to remember that, but Brent Cruz is probably one of the most talented in the Toyota pipeline right now. I would say obviously behind Heim, but Brent Cruz he's got a lot of talent too. So keep an eye on that kid for sure. On the flip side of that coin, who's and I'm trying to come up with different analogies every week, but is there a performance you would have liked to just, I don't know, toss down the garbage disposal? That's a one I figured I'd try.
Well, he did have compared to what happened last year, he had a garbage performance this week was Zilich. Where was he? Where did he go? He was mid-pack for quite a bit. And then when I saw the final results, it's like, that's not like him at all. I don't know if it must have been a bad strategy call and he might have got caught up in something that we didn't know about, but that was just an abysmal performance this week.
Yeah, especially after winning stage 2, you would think carry that momentum from stage 2, all your positive adjustments, carry that over to the final stage, and I honestly didn't see what happened to him either. The one I would like to, unfortunately, put in that trash category, just I hate to do it, I really do, but, like, because he was involved in an early incident. LeVar Scott, 19th place, not the best. Again, like I said, I know he was involved in an early incident, and that kinda pushed him back, but they had a lot of speed, so I was really hoping he was able to rebound from that and hopefully get a top 15. Top 20, still great, but you know, uh, both him and his teammate Brennan Poole needed to have a little bit more speed, and I just don't think that they were able to get and make those adjustments. They were not able to make the right adjustments to overcome that late in the race. But again, don't want to dog on him because he was in the accident earlier. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do, and unfortunately, those two guys had to be at the bottom of my list. But you do what you do. For the Cup Series, who would you like to uh, put on top of the fridge?
I have 2 of them this week. Normally, I don't have 2 of them, but you spoiled my pick as well before, but I picked Alex Bowman as a fridge driver. Like I said, after coming off of his weird symptoms, having just a rough couple of weeks coming back to, what was it, a top 5 finish? I'm
Yeah, he
trying to look
finished
at the
third.
results here. 3rd? Yeah. That's a great bounce back. He if he gets the right backing from Hendrick, I think he'll make up these points easily. Will he make the chase? Probably not, but I can see him 17th, 18th, right below the cut line. I can see him missing it by like 20 points or so.
Yeah, because he's 115 points. The theoretical cut line right now is 242, so that puts him 100 and just under 130 points out. So he's got, what is that, 15 races to get 130 points on the cut line.
He's got time.
It's manageable. It's doable. It's highly improbable, especially with the fact that he would have to get the waiver from NASCAR. But I would imagine that they would grant it too because it's a medical thing. It's not like it was, he sat out a race. But I think he would get it. It's going to be a very highly improbable thing, but it would be cool. Mine, like I said, was Alex Bowman. Great race, coming back from vertigo symptoms, but I'm also gonna shout out Daniel Suarez as well. Can't forget him. He's had a great stretch of races here and finishing 6th. So again, another great day for him. There was a thing I saw on Twitter, and I did double check it as well because sometimes statistics can be a little bit interesting. Uh, Daniel Suarez now has 4 straight top 10s at Texas. 4. I mean, that's impressive at a tough track like Texas. So, it's good to see him doing as well as he's doing, especially with Spire, and all the hype at Spire right now is around Hocevar, and I can see why, but Suarez was the higher finishing of the 2, and even the highest finishing of the 3. Because I know we had talked about a couple weeks ago about potential driver movement and stuff and who would be out at Spire if a possible Kyle Busch were to come in. Here's some just a reference for where they finished. Current Spire drivers. Daniel Suarez, 6th. Carson Hocevar, 7th. Michael McDowell, 27th. So I'm not trying to say there's an odd one out there, but one of those is clearly not like the other. So it's kind of tough, especially when you know that Spire is as talented as they are. But to see Michael McDowell struggle as much, kind of rough. But we'll switch over to the trash drivers here, or the trash performance. I don't want to call them trash drivers because they're still top of the top. But what performance was definitely one you want to toss in the trash for this week for the Cup
Well,
Series?
before we do that, I did have one more refrigerator driver, but you
That's right. You
already
said
but that's okay. Mine was also Daniel Suarez. You nailed every point I was gonna make because I think you were copying my homework, but we'll let bygones be bygones. But Alex Bowman and Daniel Suarez, I think, probably had the best performances, probably that anybody can agree upon.
yeah.
So
I w- I'm
I
gonna toss
know,
one more.
go
I'm
for it.
just gonna toss one more out there because it kind of doesn't create great entertainment when we agree all the time. But I'm also gonna throw another one out there because he actually overcame himself on pit road. Was Ryan Blaney? He managed to finish in 10th. Didn't start great. He started in 31st, but he ended up having speed all throughout the day. It seemed like he was making up positions left, center, right, everywhere you look. It seemed like he was passing somebody. And then unfortunately, he stalled it on pit road. There were people that were saying that his pit crew failed him once again. And I think Steven Toronto on Twitter, he's fantastic for the onboards. He posted the clip of the onboard and he just stalled it, which is unfortunate. But I do have to give Blaney credit. He was able to bounce back very well. Like I said, had a ton of speed and was able to recover to a nice 10th place finish, or very respectable 10th place finish. But we can go ahead and flip it back on its head now that you're in the mindset of the trash performances.
I know excuse me, I know we're not supposed to kick anybody while they're down, but this team knows better. This driver knows better. Logano, that pit road incident, that was a failure on everyone's parts. Joey saw it last second and tried to correct it, but I didn't hear any radio call saying slow down, or check up from anybody. I think Texas is just a weekend to forget. Sure, let's have a meeting on it Monday. Bing bang boom, 2 minutes, put it behind us. Let's move forward. But everyone else kind of finished where that I thought they would. There's other drivers that had really bad incidents, but that pit road incident, that that's that's a communication thing. That was a bad breakdown. It's just time to throw that away, pun intended.
Oh yeah, and there were a ton of pit road penalties we can, or not pit road penalties, pit road incidents we can come back to after the segment. But the one I will throw in the trash for the week is Chastain. He was running very very well, running top 10, top 15, and then unfortunately later in the race uh, earned himself a speeding penalty, and he could just never recover from that, and ended up finishing a lap down in 26th. So again, and mile and a halfs, I know for him personally, he's had some pretty good runs, but I don't know if it's because it's Trackhouse. I don't know if it's because everybody else is kind of caught up. I don't know, but he's struggling a little bit, and it's tough to watch, but I think they can they need to figure something out because the way that their program is right now is not to the level it can be. So I think that's kind of a tough thing to watch, but uh, yeah, his performance after that speeding penalty was definitely one to forget for sure. But another great segment. But we transitioning away from the fridge or trash, which was a great segment again. Uh, I do want to talk about the pit road incidents that happened. We had mentioned it. You had mentioned it just a second ago about Joey Logano's pit road incident, where he had to check up because Cole Custer had to check up to let, I believe it was Ty Gibbs out of the box. And that ended up causing Logano to get into the back of Cole Custer, ruined Joey's left front end, ruined Cole Custer's right rear end, and that affected Custer's day as well. So, I mean, you know, that was not just a Logano thing. And Logano actually had just missed whatever spinning car it was literally like 2 minutes prior. So very difficult to see that, Joey just missed the spin or, the spinning car by what looked like inches, and then only for that to be taken away on pit road. How demoralizing could that be for you as a driver?
Just when you think you're getting into a rhythm, things are looking up, or if even if you had a bad day, once you have a pit road incident, just all the fire is gone. It's just extinguished. And either you can recover from it, but it's going to be a sour day, or you're just done and you just have to sulk in your motorhome and always wonder what could have been.
Yeah. Well, like, he wasn't the only one to have incidents. Briscoe and Larson got into each other a little bit. We saw, who else got into each other? There were quite a few uh, drivers that made contact on pit road, and I don't know what was going on in that Texas sun today, but they were having a hard time on pit road. So it was tough to watch, but at least the positive thing is none of those were Blaney's fault. So for all you Blaney fans out there, that's a positive you can look at is he was not a part of any of those. But it was definitely tough to watch some of those incidents happen, and like the Joey one, maybe it could have been prevented, maybe not. I don't know if, like, because of the checkup, I don't know how much ahead. I would have to see like an overhead shot to see if you could actually tell that it was coming or not, but still just a rough way for his day to end. But just unfortunate. Unfortunate. But otherwise, like, the racing itself was okay. I mean, the back, I don't know, probably quarter was kind of meh. You had a couple guys that were just kind of running away with it, and if it wasn't for the late caution, I think we definitely would have been in for a snooze fest there at the end. But um, that's just kind of a product of Texas right now, and I think there can be some improvements made, but what improvements will be made, I don't know. But that's just the product of it. Can't really do anything about it. But one race I am looking forward to is this upcoming race, but this upcoming week at Watkins Glen. It is going to be a little bit different because it's way earlier in the year than it typically is. It's actually Mother's Day on Sunday, and supposedly they had snow just within the last week. So I have heard that the ground may not be thawed out for the campers, which is going to make for a muddy mess. Doesn't sound like it's going to be very pleasant. However, the fact that we're going to another road course this early in the year is going to throw a wrench into things. We could have Zilich win his first one. We could have SVG win one for the year. We could have Allmendinger win one. We could have McDowell win one. Who knows? Even Chase could show up and win another one because he was good on the road courses before all these road course ringers came in. He was the road course ringer. So we'll see if he can continue to build on his momentum from this week or not, or if anybody can snatch it away from him. But we want to thank you guys for listening, watching, and tuning in. Again, I know I didn't have much media behind me this week, but this picture in particular is a part of my portfolio. So if you like any of that sort of stuff, I've got my website linked down below. Feel free to follow the socials over here as well. I got race day updates that come out for the races and things like that. And you know, if you enjoy listening to us yap on and on about the cup races, truck races, O'Reilly races, or anything like that, feel free to share, comment, like all the good stuff. But until the next episode, which will be this upcoming week, we want to thank you guys again, and we will see you after Watkins Glen.